You are on Winning Roles with Brian, and the winning role that we're going to talk about today is Weekend Warrior. I want you to have a role that you call Weekend Warrior. But now what does that mean? See, everybody, a lot of different people could have that role in their life where they say, I'm a weekend warrior. But what does that actually mean? Now, to some people, that means that they put in a lot of work on their house over the weekend. They're working on renovating their kitchen or something like that. Okay, so they're a weekend warrior. They get a lot of work done on their house. Maybe a weekend warrior is someone who loves to mountain bike or loves to mountain climb or loves to do some kind of physical sport like that. So you're a weekend warrior because you're out there in nature, hiking and climbing rocks and whatnot. Okay, that could make you a weekend warrior. I want you to be a weekend warrior for your real estate. So you're a real estate weekend warrior. Okay, so how are you a real estate weekend warrior? You make a bunch of calls. You make 20 calls. All right, if you make 20 calls every weekend, you are absolutely a weekend warrior. You're absolutely a real estate weekend warrior. So now when you create a role or when you start thinking about, okay, this is a new role I want in my life, which is real estate winner, you want that role in your life, real estate winner. So part of that role, a sub role could be real estate weekend warrior, where you just really focus up on weekends. Now, when I say weekend warrior, I mainly mean Saturday. Okay, if you can put in time on Saturday, you don't have to do anything on Sunday, maybe follow up a call or there or something, but not like focused efforts, work, hours assigned on Sunday, but Saturday. If you can put in 3 hours on a Saturday, that could be almost your whole business. That could basically run your business because people pick up the phone on Saturday. People are more relaxed on Saturday. So much real estate happens on Saturday. So my highest recommendation is that you put in on a week as a weekend warrior, you put in 3 hours of calling. Okay, this is the best time to reach people. It's the best thing to be focused on. This is not the time to be filling out paperwork unless you're going out to somebody's house. This is the time to be on the phone and also going out on deal meetings. Saturday is the best day for that. You should try to have a deal meeting every Saturday. Okay, so you should be lined up where you figure, okay, every Saturday I'm going to have one deal meeting, so I'm going to have to make a bunch of calls. Maybe Friday or Thursday or Friday night would be a good night to call to set up my weekend so I have a deal meeting every Saturday. Okay, I really would love it if you're going out to a house to look at it, to potentially buy it every Saturday, and you're going out there with a filled out, typed out agreement, purchase and sales, standard purchase and sales agreement. Okay, so that's the ideal. So when you say weekend warrior, then and I talk about role charts. So I have a role chart, and so you can create a role chart for weekend warrior. So at the top you write weekend warrior, then you write out what the habits, what the schedule, what the duties, and what the mindset, there's even a section on there for memory matrix. So what 3 positive memories can you think of that give you a lot of confidence for getting on the phone and being a weekend warrior? Have you ever closed a deal? Okay, if you've ever closed a deal, that should be one of your memories, is how you close that deal. So I always say pick 3 things for your memory matrix for every one of your roles. And when you switch into that role, those are the 3 memories that you think of. There's plenty of memories that are not so pleasant and not necessarily positive. You got to pick and choose your memories. You have to be a curator of your own memories, and you got to focus on the ones where they're positive and ignore the ones that are negative. Excuse me. Okay, I got the puppies here with me. They're making me allergic. All right, so guys, that's what I want you to do, is be a weekend warrior this weekend. And you define the terms. What does a weekend warrior mean to you? Maybe it means that you go out and spend some time with your family out in nature. You have a big picnic on Sunday. That's a different weekend warrior than a real estate weekend warrior, though. Remember, I want you to be a real estate weekend warrior, which means at least 2 hours. Okay, at least 2 hours. Does that make you a warrior, or do you need to put in 3 or 4 hours to really qualify as a weekend warrior? You decide. That's the whole thing about picking your roles and defining your roles. I used to call the role charts role definition charts because they define your role for you. They tell you when you need to play that role, what that role thinks. There's affirmations for that role. There's a trigger trio. Remember, every role has a trigger trio. That's a trigger affirmation, a trigger gesture, and a trigger image. So when you think of that image, or when you do that gesture, or when you do that affirmation, all three of those will trigger that role, will snap you into that role. But when you do all three, then you're super into that role. Okay. So think of a good trigger trio for weekend warrior. It could be just, I am a weekend warrior. You know, sometimes that's the affirmation to switch into that role, is just saying, I am a weekend warrior. I'm gonna be successful this weekend. I'm gonna have a great weekend. I'm gonna be so powerful this weekend. I am a weekend warrior. Okay, so you can get yourself going on a roll like that with your affirmations. And look, I'm doing gestures, right? Pumping my fist. So think of some gestures and stuff that snap you into that role. And remember, you can do this for any role in your life. Just define the role, figure out what role you want to play, then think of a trigger trio that will snap you into that role. For like for weekend warrior, what's your image? Okay, what's your image? Is your image you on the phone, you know, with a big smile, making a great deal? Is that your image? That would be a good image. That's an exciting image. You know, that's a motivating image. So you want to have an image that motivates you, an affirmation, and a gesture. Yay, you know, to snap into your weekend warrior role. But let's all start thinking about, what does that weekend warrior role mean? But I'll tell you what, if you have a deal meeting on a weekend, on a Saturday, you have qualified absolutely as a real estate weekend warrior. If you do not have a deal meeting, I want you to shoot for 20 calls, making 20 calls. And that doesn't mean 20 messages. That means actually trying to talk to 20 people. Now if you could talk to 20 people, 20 potential sellers on a weekend, or some networking, that would be great. That would run your business. 20 calls a week is if you're focused on the right leads, that should be sufficient to at least do one deal a month. Come on, you're talking to 80 potential deals, 80 potential sellers a month, and you're going to say not one's going to even say yes. So again, guys, it's a numbers game in the business, and so much of the business can happen on the weekend, and especially on Saturday. So let's be a weekend warrior this Saturday, right? Happy Friday. I got what I think will be a closing call scheduled for tomorrow, Isabel, with a seller I spoke to, and she's eager to follow up tomorrow. Awesome. So guys, sometimes you do an opening call and then you schedule or follow up with a closing call. And that's often if you can only get one of them on the phone for the opening call. If you are going to schedule a closing call, well, let's talk this Saturday or whatever. Make sure, if it's a spouse, if there's two people on that house, that they're both on that call. That's really important. If I'm ever not just rolling into the closing call, remember, my favorite way to do it is if you're on the opening call and you're talking to them and they've said yes, that they're open to monthly payments. What do? You don't say, well, let me run some numbers and get back to you. No, you roll right into the seller financing closing call. Remember, the most important, if you're going to be a weekend warrior in real estate, you have to be good on the phone. And that means being good at the scripts. And you've got the best scripts in the business. That 2.5 page long seller financing closing call script is almost all you need. That script teaches you so much of what you need to say on the phone, and so much how to negotiate all 4 deal points is in the seller financing closing call script. Most important script in the business, 2.5 pages long. Learn that script. Watch me and Lynette role playing it on screen. I'm the investor. She's got the big blonde wig on when you're watching the videos in the what to say and what to do system. Okay, so that's very exciting. Isabel's got a deal cooking, plus 2 other sellers you're going to follow up with. So again, Saturday is a great day to play weekend warrior, real estate weekend warrior. And guys, sometimes just saying the name of the role gets you jazzed up and gets you in the right mindset. Just saying, I am a weekend warrior for real estate. I am a real estate weekend warrior. I mean, and you think of an image of you maybe wearing a Superman costume, you know, standing like this, that could be your gesture, you know? So again, guys, just your mind is so easy to manipulate. And that's the sad thing. Your mind, well, the good and bad thing. So you got to manipulate it though. The sad thing is that other people manipulate you and get you in a bad mood. Sometimes we're very susceptible to triggers. So you got to watch all your triggers during the day and what they're triggering you to do. And so people are triggers. Every person in your life is a trigger. Now, what are they triggering you? What role are they triggering you into? Hopefully it's a positive, powerful role. If you have a good boss, they should be able to trigger you into a productive employee role. Okay, that's the goal of the boss, is to be able to be your trigger to do your job well. Okay, hopefully you've got enough triggers where you're doing your job well with your own little triggers, but an outside trigger can be extra motivating. And so that's why I'm here. I'm triggering you like crazy to be to be a real estate winner, to be a weekend warrior. So I am a weekend warrior. That's our affirmation for today. And, remember, part of every role is what's the role's schedule. So weekend warrior, obviously that's a weekend schedule. So how many hours? Again, I would at least 2. But, unless you really kick butt in those 2 hours, that barely qualifies as a weekend warrior. But, if you get a deal, if you're doing really well, absolutely. So let's say that. Let's use that affirmation 3 times on 3, guys. I am a weekend warrior. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. I am a weekend warrior. I am a weekend warrior. I am a weekend warrior. Oh man, that feels good just saying that, right? Get you excited, get you feeling powerful. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Remember, we all have time. Time is our power because we use your time well. Getting on the phone, talking to the right people. Another one. You don't have to be physically strong. You could weigh 90, you could be a 90-pound weakling but you have a voice. You have a voice and a brain. And in this business, that's what it takes. Getting on the phone with your voice and your positive thinking. Okay, one more. Okay, good. Hold it a little bit. And remember that those inner big deep breaths, I like doing those before or in between calls. It's also good. It's very invigorating. Okay, so I want you doing that. Okay, so great job, Isabel. Love that. Positive memory matrix. Excellent reminder to make focused use of all that mental energy. Yes, so guys, when you are switching into a role, every role you have has certain memories connected to that role. Make sure they're positive and pick the top 3. So every time you want to switch into that role, you could trigger yourself into that role by just thinking of one of those memories. There's a lot of different things that trigger you. Everything in the world could be a trigger. Your breakfast is a trigger. The TV is a trigger. Your computer is a trigger. All that clickbait. They're just trying to trigger you. That's what every advertiser on the internet is trying to trigger you. And so that's why you got to be careful and don't let the wrong people trigger you. Trigger yourself into the right roles to be successful. Right? Awesome. Okay, great day, guys. Let's have an awesome weekend because this weekend you're going to play what? Weekend Warriors. Okay, I'm going to be a weekend warrior this weekend and I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to make some great calls and I might even go out and see a house and buy a house. How awesome is that? All right, so guys, I will see you on Monday and let me know your weekend warrior stories. Hopefully you guys got some good stories of how you're weekend warriors and how you got some really good stuff done this weekend. All right. And it's a great time for it because we're just coming in. This is springtime. The market's starting to open up again. So you got some real motivated sellers. The market's still kind of dragging in a lot of areas with interest rates and stuff. So you definitely have some sellers who are willing to deal and need to do something, motivated sellers. So get out there and talk to them this weekend and be a weekend warrior. Till I talk to you on Monday, keep expecting success, getting awesome training from the Wolf Couple, and taking action as a weekend